What's going on, HSM? How are you guys doing? Good? Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. You guys enjoying summer so far? Dude, I remember summer in high school is just like freedom, you know? Like, I know you only probably get like a week or maybe a couple days or a weekend of vacation, but like summer, it's just vacation for like 3 months, and it's so great. Guys, we are in this series right now where we're talking about what it looks like to be an adult. Like, what does it look like as we grow up? What are the things that we can expect? Last week we talked a little bit about responsibility. And tonight, when I think about becoming an adult and growing up, I think about getting a job. How many of you guys have a job right now? Yeah, I would love to hear, where are you guys working? Like, shout out some places. Walmart, Olive Garden, Hershey Park. What was that? Penn Cinemas? Real cinemas. Okay, so we got some movie theaters, we got Olive Garden, we got a lot of different stuff. Guys, my first job was at an orchard. Okay? My first job was at an orchard, all right? Is there anybody like manual labor, like they work on a farm or, construction or like whatever? Yeah. So when I was 15, there are very few places that hire someone at 15 apparently, and one of those places is an orchard. So that's where I got my first job. It was called Flinch Balls. It was a family-run orchard near my house. And guys, I remember just feeling grown up, right? Like, I remember showing up, like, working hard, Okay, so basically what I did was I picked fruit, okay? Like, I'm not going to glorify, I picked fruit. That was about it. The worst part about picking fruit was the peaches. Anybody love peaches? Okay, I love peaches. But here's the thing, guys. You know how peaches have that fuzz? So when you pick peaches out of a tree, the fuzz, some people thought I was going to say something else. The fuzz gets all over you. It gets all over your clothes, all over your skin. Guys, it feels like you just have bug bites all over your body. And it's just the worst. Like, oh my goodness. Guys, I was so itchy. Like, on the days where we had to go out, we would pick peaches for hours. And I would be so itchy. And when I tell you that I had clothing that I just couldn't wear anymore, because no matter how many times you wash them, the fuzz does not come out of your clothing. It's like little needles poking you in the skin. It's just the worst thing ever. And so that was my least favorite part of working at the orchard. But what made it all worth it, what made the poking and prodding of the stupid peach fuzz worth it, was the paycheck. Oh, guys, the feeling of working hard for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, and then you get that money, you get the paper, you get them stacks, and you're feeling good, right? You're feeling good. I remember feeling on top of the world with my first few paychecks, man. I felt grown up. I felt like an adult. I was ready to go, buy a bike or something. I don't know what a 15-year-old does with money. But the thing was, what I didn't realize, and what nobody really talked to me about before I got my job, was that money brings a lot of stuff with it. And so, sorry if I'm echoing a little bit. I'm not sure what that's about, but I'm going to keep moving, and we'll see if it... Ooh, it's kind of creepy, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of weird. Huh. All right, well, not sure what that's about. Are we good? I think? Yeah? All right, we're going to keep going. So, what I didn't realize about money was that there was a lot of stuff that came with it. And so money, there's some popular sayings about money. People say money can't buy happiness, and good stuff like that. And then there are times where it kind of feels like, yeah, money can't like really make you happy, but it can give you some fun for a little while. Like there's a lot of things that money comes with it. And depending on how you were raised, you might have your own perspectives on money. You might have a perspective that there's never enough of it, and so you try and you just hold on to whatever you have because you just don't know if you're going to get more. Maybe you were raised in a household that was just kind of getting by. That was kind of my household. We had just enough to keep going. You might have a perspective of money's just for fun, man. Like, I'm going to spend it, ring up that credit card. Like, I don't know what this piece of plastic is, but whenever I use it, I get stuff and I don't have to pay for it, like that kind of thing. Do we have any, like, savers in here, like really responsible people? That wasn't me at 15. That was not me at 15. A lot of you, any spenders? Where are my spenders at? Yeah. So that was me at 15, guys. So I made money and I spent all of it. I did not save a penny. I did not save a single penny. I spent all of it. And so with all the things that come with money, do you spend it? Do you save it? Money can't buy you happiness. All these things that we think about. What I didn't realize was that money brought with it a temptation. Money brought with it a temptation to use it all for me, right? Because it was my hard-earned money, right? I worked hard for it, and I wanted to use it to do whatever I wanted. And so I did. I spent all of it doing whatever I wanted because it was my hard-earned money. But the thing is, guys, there's some flaws in that way of thinking, okay? So it's really easy to think if you get emotionally attached to your money, and you think, man, I worked so hard for it, I'm going to use it for whatever I want. And then people tell you, you should do this, you should do that, and you're like, no, I want to use it for whatever I want. And so I use my money selfishly. But here's the thing, guys. God has a different plan for your money than we do. God has a different plan and perspective on money than what I had when I was younger. And so I thought my money was for me. I'm going to use it for whatever I want. But if you guys look in Genesis 12, you don't have to turn there right now. I'll give you kind of the summary. So Genesis 12, God gives us a glimpse into what his plan for our money is, okay? So Genesis 12, he's talking to a guy named Abraham, and he's setting up how he's got big plans for Abraham. He's going to have him go and do all these incredible things. And then because he's doing all these incredible things, God's saying, hey, here's how I'm going to bless you for your faithfulness in this area. And so in Genesis 12, verse 2, he says to him, he basically says, I will make you into a nation. I will make you famous. I will give you all kinds of money. Like, he's loading it up, right? Like, I'm going to give you resources. I'm going to give you influence. I'm going to give you wealth. And then at the end, in verse 2, he says, and you will be a blessing to others. And so God sets this up as, man, I'm going to give you all this stuff, but who's it for? Like, who's it really for? And so what I had to learn, and guys, this has taken me years, is that my money, the money that I worked hard for, I worked to get that bank, get that paper, whatever, I hustled, I grinded. It wasn't just for me. And so when we are blessed, it is so that we can be a blessing. That's what we learn from Genesis 12. God's heart, God's desire for our money is that when he blesses us, we are to be a blessing to others. But I didn't get that right away. It took me a while to get there. And honestly, I'm not perfect now. But my journey with money and my journey with even just like my own selfish heart, as I look back on it, I realize how much of it was just kind of selfishness of wanting to use my money my way. But there's a couple things I felt. I felt, one, like I just didn't have enough money to give, right? You ever sit in like the sermons and they're talking about money and they're like, yeah, tithe, you should give, do this, do that. And it's like, yeah, but I don't have that much money. Like, one, I feel like I have stuff that I want. I have stuff that I need. And so by the time I do all that stuff, I don't really have that much left. And even if I do give it, what's it even going to matter? And so I always felt like I just didn't have enough to give. And so I convinced myself to kind of cover up my own selfishness. I decided that when I had enough money, then I'd be generous. Because that's how it works, right? You get more money, and you become more generous, right? So like if I hold on to what little money I have, all of a sudden when someone gives me more, when I get a job that makes more, when my parents give me birthday money, whatever it might be, then I can give it away, right? Because I have extra money, and if I was selfish with a little bit of money, clearly I'll be generous with a lot. Like, that's how it works. And I know it sounds silly, but that's kind of what I taught myself, and I think I have an inkling that some of you guys in the room might be feeling that a little bit too. You might be feeling like, you know what, Joe? It sounds great. You know, being nice, being good to other people, giving your money, whatever, that sounds great. But what about for me when I just don't have that much? I don't have that much money to give in the first place. And so I don't blame you for thinking that way if that's you, because I felt that way for a long time, which is why I love Mark 12. You guys open up your phones, Bible apps, go to Mark 12. Mark 12, verse 41 through 44. Mark 12, 41 through 44. So let me set the scene for you. So Jesus is in the temple, right? This is where all the religious people gathered. And a lot of the time what you did when you were religious was you gave a tithe, you gave some money as an offering to God. And so Jesus is observing. He's in the temple. He's with his followers, and he's observing. He's standing by the collection box. It was just kind of this big container that held all the money in it, right? And so he's standing by it. He's observing, and he's just kind of watching, you know? People come up. They take out their wallet. They take out a little bit of cash. They drop it in the collection box. They walk away. And so Jesus is just observing. All right, this is where we're at. Then Jesus sat down at the collection box in the temple, and he watched the crowds drop in their money. Many rich people put in large amounts. Let me stop right there. So many rich people put in large amounts. So kind of what he's getting at there. So imagine Kanye West rolls up to church this Sunday, right? Kanye rolls up. Nobody knows about it somehow. Just go with me. Kanye shows up to church on Sunday, and he's like, all right, cool, I'll give $1,000. Whoa, that's $1,000, right? Like, that's pretty dope. But here's the thing, guys. It's Kanye. Kanye's worth like millions, right? Like millions upon millions, like one of the richest people on the planet. And so for Kanye to just roll up and drop 1,000, like that's a lot to us, but that's nothing to him. And so that's kind of what Jesus is observing here. He's like, all right, there's these wealthy people showing up. They're giving a lot of money, but there's nothing to it, right? Like there's no skin in the game there. They're just dropping in money and kind of doing as they're told. So then, verse 42, then a poor woman came and dropped in 2 small coins. These small coins, they're probably about the worth of maybe a little less than a penny. All right, so you've got $1,000, $100, $50, and you got this woman walks up, essentially drops a penny into the collection box. Verse 43, Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I tell you the truth, this poor widow has given more than all the others who are making contributions. For they gave a tiny part of their surplus, but she, poor as she has given everything she has to live on. And so I can imagine being one of Jesus' disciples and sitting there and being like, Jesus, wait, how did she give more than everyone else, right? Like, Jesus, did you forget how math works? $1,000, penny. So there's a difference there, right? Like, you can't really say that it's more. But Jesus was highlighting something here. These rich people, they were given a large amount of money, but that's because they had a large amount of money to work with. They didn't feel the weight of it. This woman, she walked up with her penny, and you guys, she was a widow, which means that there was no source of income there. Okay, so back then, the husband did all the work. The woman kind of lived off that. If she was a widow, that means that she probably had no care, no support. She likely had no real way of income. And so that was likely maybe something someone was given to her. It could have been from begging. We don't really know. But either way, somehow she had about a penny to her name. And she dropped it in the collection box. And Jesus looks at her, and he looks at his disciples, and he says, that woman gets it. Generosity, giving, all these things. It's not about how much money you have. It's about your heart. And so that woman, in that moment, expressed how much she trusted God to provide for her, because there was no one, she couldn't provide for herself. She put that penny in, she's saying, God, I trust you to provide for me. And then she understood that what she had wasn't just for her. She's like, I want to be a blessing. With what little I have, I want to be a blessing. And guys, I can't imagine that. Like, I can't even fathom walking up and saying, God, here's all that I have, as little as it might be. Do with it what you will. It's a kind of open-handedness that I did not have at 15. I did not have at 16. I did not have at 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I'm going to stop going, but I still do not have it. That type of willingness to give, to be generous, to be open-handed with our resources, that is what God calls us to as his followers. And so you might be sitting here, and you might be hearing me talk about money, and you're saying, Joe, I just don't have that much to give. It's not about how much. It's not about what's in your wallet. It's about your heart. Do you trust God to provide for you the things that you need, not just the things that you want, but the things that you need? And when you do, you can be open-handed in that way. You can be open-handed and say, God, what little I have, I give to you. Do what you will. Because remember, we are blessed by God so that we can be a blessing to others. Man, when I was a kid, I didn't get this. I was selfish with my money. I spent it on what I wanted. Because when you spend money on the things that you want, it's fun, right? Like, it's so much fun. Like, buying video games, buying a bike, buying basketball, instruments, whatever it might be. Like, one of my prized possessions is my drum set, it's my guitar, because I love music. I love being able to make music, and so I felt so proud being able to buy those things myself, and I love those things, and they, they're fun. But stuff goes away, doesn't it? Stuff goes away. Stuff gets old, it gets outdated, it gets worn, it gets dirty. Maybe you have some clothes that when you were in middle school, you were like, oh my gosh, I love this. I'm so happy. This shirt is so dope. I feel so good in it. And then you outgrew it. And it goes in the trash or it goes to someone else. But you don't only keep it for so long, right? I have an iPhone 6S. Guys, that used to be new, right? Now it's 5-6 generations in the past. What do you guys have now? The iPhone 11? 6. Some of you have 6. Some of you are like, no. But listen, that used to be new. The iPhone 6S was new and it was dope. And now the phones are twice the size of it. And when I hold it up to it, it looks like a child's toy, right? Stuff, it gets outdated. My phone, it's outdated. It used to be new. It's not anymore. And so I spent all my money on stuff that I would only have for a little while. I spent all my money on stuff because I thought it would be fun, thought it would bring me happiness. It was my money and I was just proud to use it. But it all fades away, right? Your clothes, your shoes, these shoes used to be perfectly white and now there's dirt on them and it's frustrating. Okay guys, I'm not even joking. When I got dirt on these white shoes, I've never had white shoes before. I should not have white shoes because I will get them dirty immediately. But when I got dirt on the shoes, I was like, oh my gosh, I need new shoes. The shoes are still fine. I can still walk on them. I can still do whatever I need. But as soon as I got dirt on my white shoes, my first thought was that I needed to buy new shoes. That's crazy, right? Isn't that crazy? And so, we get so attached to our stuff we want to use. I want to use my stuff selfishly. God says, no, I blessed you so that you can be a blessing. And so one last thing that I want to talk to you guys about one last passage I want you guys to go to. If you guys could go to Matthew 6. Matthew 6, verse 19. So this is Jesus teaching to some people, some followers, some disciples, some people that gathered around him to listen to him. And he's just teaching about a different thing. So this is part of the Sermon on the Mount. You guys remember we went through the Sermon on the Mount and main gathering all together. So this is a part of it. And Jesus starts talking about our money and our possessions. And so I'm going to start in verse 19. Jesus says, don't store up treasures here on earth, where moths eat them, rust destroys them, where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy, and thieves do not break in and steal. Because wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. Guys, I can't tell you how many things I've bought that I just don't have anymore. When I was 15 and I had my job, I spent all my money. I could not tell you one thing that I spent it on because I don't have it anymore. I couldn't show you one thing. Any clothing I outgrew, it's probably in the trash now. The clothing that had peach fuzz all over it, that's in the trash. Like, I do not have one single thing that I could show you from what I spent on my money at my first job when I was 15. And yet I spent it all on myself. And it all faded away. And this is what Jesus is talking about here. Verse 19, don't store up treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them. Don't store up all your treasures here on earth. Remember, you are blessed so that you can be a blessing. Do not use all of your money on these temporary things. And so what Jesus is saying here is do not use all your money on these temporary things. Focus on things that are eternal. Giving, living generously, those things are eternal. When you give to someone, man, when you can bless someone else, when you can perk up someone's day by being nice and generous with your money, whether it's given to the church or given to a nonprofit, or maybe you have a kid at school that you know his family is just going through a tough time, and so you buy them lunch, like whatever it might be, the way that you can be generous, you are storing up treasures in heaven, is what Jesus is saying. And so, guys, when you give, you choose eternal treasures over temporary pleasures. You choose eternal treasures over temporary pleasures. When I was 15, I spent all my money on stuff that I thought would be fun, but it only lasted a little while. But when you give, when you live generously, you store up treasures in heaven. You guys remember the song we just sang, Christ is Risen? It talks about how one day we will see Jesus face to face. You know how good it will feel to be Jesus, all those things that you blessed me with. Yeah, I went and I blessed others with them. And so, guys, for me, what I realized was being generous, giving, it wasn't about how much money I had, because even when I got different jobs that paid more, I still wasn't more generous. And so a few years ago, it came to a certain point where I was like, you know what? I have to make a decision. I have to choose whether I'm going to live selfishly with my money or whether I'm going to be a blessing with what I was blessed with. And so I started giving. I started giving to the church. And it wasn't a lot at first, but I'm like, you know what? I just got to start. And guys, I never ended up making more money at the job I was at when I started giving, but I never noticed the loss of it in a sense of like, oh man, I don't have enough to survive. God provided more than enough, even though my pay never went up. And so when I gave, God provided. He was there. And so guys, I don't know what's holding you back. If you've got something holding you back from being generous and giving, like me, maybe you're viewing your money, your stuff selfishly. I don't know what it is. But guys, the things that we spend our money on, they're only going to fulfill us for a little while. When we give, when we're generous, those are eternal treasures. When we brighten someone's day, when we cheer them up, those are eternal treasures, man. And so I want to invite you guys into something. So you might know that we sponsor 6 kids in Kalawa, Kenya. And so what it means when we sponsor them is we provide for them financially because there are things like food, water, school, even bathrooms that they just don't have easy access to where they live. And so we believe that God has blessed us and we want to be a blessing, right? And so we give, we support them. And so you guys have seen the box out there. We've talked about it from stage, but I want to challenge you guys something. What if each of us gave $1 a week, every week? Guys, you know, sometimes we have up to 75 students in attendance. Guys, if we gave $1 a week for a whole year, we could raise almost $4,000. And trust me, I did the math. It's about $3,900 for our sponsor kids. We would be able to essentially double the amount of kids that we sponsor if we were to raise that much money. And so, guys, my challenge for you is to look at what you've been blessed with and figure out how you can be a blessing. So when you go to groups, talk about, all right, what do I have and how can I give and care for others? And then think about how can I at least get on the board, even if it's just $1, in giving regularly to our sponsor kids. And I know some of you guys, you got jobs and you can give a lot more than just $1. But if you're not giving at all, start somewhere. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for your grace and your love. Thank you for your goodness and your mercy. Thank you for all the things that you have blessed us with, God. Thank you for the clothes that we wear, the food that we ate today, the bed that we slept in, the home that we live in. God, all of our stuff, all of our money, everything that you've blessed us with is all yours. Psalms 24:1 says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it." And so we know it's all yours. And so we just come to you open-handed tonight. God, may you guide us. May you help us live generously. May you help us look more like Jesus, who calls us to live generously. God, I thank you for your goodness and your love. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.